Welcome to the Growth Enablement Madness podcast, and I'm Jim Ward, your host, CEO of BrainSell, the growth enablement company. I'm absolutely mad about helping businesses grow and scale. And in this podcast, my team and I get a chance to talk shop with industry thought leaders about a variety of growth enablement strategies, stories, and technology trends. I'm happy that you're here, so let's get the growth conversation started. Hi, folks. This is Jim Ward. This is the Growth Enablement Madness podcast. And again, I'm Jim Ward, CEO of BrainSell. I have my co-host today with me, Sarah Reed. Say hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
And our wonderful producer, Brian Anderson. Thank you, Brian, for setting this up.
You're welcome.
He's got all that energy, everybody. We're gonna knock this one out of the park. We have some wonderful guests today. They are our practice. I said RR, so I hopefully with my Boston accent, you got it. They are our fractional CFO practice managers, and their names are Christi Cereghino and Rachel Durkot. Say hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you all doing?
Good.
Great.
Good to be here.
Busy time of the year, isn't it?
It's definitely picking up. Yeah. I'm now through spring is going to be madness. So prepared for it.
So we're really excited to talk to you so that folks know in our audience and our customer base the things that you do and how you can help them. I think it's really critical in these times. Particularly, I think it's been a challenging economy. Folks may not wanting to hire all the time, but I want you to tell us all the things you guys do. But first, let's start with each of you. How did you get here into the fractional service business?
Well, I fell into accounting while I was in college, but ended up loving it and worked in-house for quite a few private companies at controller level, and found that I really love problem solving. That's the thing I love the most. So doing the fractional services just was a natural progression because it's constant problem solving. Nothing's ever going smoothly. That's why we're typically called in to help out clients. So it just was it's my favorite job I've ever had within accounting because it's never the same thing twice.
And for those of you on just audio listening to this, that's Christi speaking. I just want to make sure everybody knows the voice differentiation. And Rachel, how'd you get here?
Yeah, mine was kind of an untraditional route as well. I've taught in education before this, so I didn't have an accounting background at all. I started with the company sort of in a sales aspect, managing the sales side of things because, as we all know, accountants aren't the best at that. So I kind of took on that role. And then 2 years after I started with the company, at that point, moved more into a management position, overseeing the consulting side of things as well. So luckily, our company believes a lot in training and education. So I've gone through numerous courses, lots of accounting training, learned a lot through just being in the industry. It's been about 7 years now. So kind of have learned on the job most of it. But we have a great team who are experts in all of the other areas. So,
well, it's certainly we found this is very helpful to our clients. And why don't we start? We always use the pyramid of communication, where we start at the very top of the pyramid, and just simply tell me, the themes of what fractional services are and how they span what we're providing.
Yeah, so fractional is exactly what it sounds like. I mean, you can have a myriad of fractions, right? You can have 9/10 or 1/4. A lot of companies need some support, maybe interim, or they don't need full-time support. And so fractional services are a great way to supplement the accounting team with additional resources, but not have to commit to a full-time hire if that doesn't make sense at this point for whatever reason that is. And so some of our clients engage with us on a very low level fractionally. It could be a couple hours here and there as needed if something comes up and they just have a question or something to work through. And then we have others that may need someone full time or several resources for a while to get something done quickly.
So tell me, the various offerings go from very more executive level CFO, and then they go to other fractional services. Can you tell the audience a little bit about the broad spectrum?
So we have our consulting team is made up of CFO down to a staff accounting level consultant and sort of everything in between. Obviously, each role has their different focus in accounting. So the CFO is more strategic. They're taking the numbers and looking into the future. Where do we want to be as a company if we're growing? How are we going to get there? Sort of mindset. The controller levels, they're typically, sometimes they're really in the weeds, and sometimes it's more that analysis of the financial statements that the staff accountants are putting together for them. So they're really still in historical financials, but the analysis of that for the CFO. And then our staff accountant, senior accountant level consultants are the ones who are really in the weeds, getting the day-to-day accounting done and making sure that everything is up to date and proper so that the owners, the CEOs can have real-time accurate data to be able to kind of build off of from there.
And bookkeeping services too?
Yeah, so we consider our staff accountants like
Okay.
bookkeepers. They're usually our staff accountants are a little bit more robust than a traditional bookkeeper. They've been in industry a little bit longer, so they're really good in terms of just jumping in. But yeah, it's a similar level.
So what I'm hearing you say, Rachel, is that we are able to provide these fractional services, or at some level full-time if we wanted to, for the client if they want not to, or they don't want to invest in an actual hire. They pay a fee without having to worry about what benefits and all those things. We take
Yeah.
care of that. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's all hourly. We keep it pretty flexible for our clients. So whether they want to use us kind of as needed as things pop up and just pull us in then, or we can have more of a regular schedule. But yeah, if somebody wants to use somebody on a full-time basis on more of a short-term project, they can ramp up hours at any point. So we try and keep it pretty flexible. We know needs change constantly with clients. Some clients are seasonal too. So they're not really going to need the same amount of time at all times. So yeah, can be a variety of hours needed.
One of the things that we've found is that when we're doing, our ERP implementations, there are oftentimes people forget that not only do they need to do the implementation, but they have to do their daily job. And so now folks are getting more and more interested in having us backfill while they're doing the implementation or assist with the implementation. That's been a very successful thing to have brought to the folks out there. And I think it's greatly appreciated. And it's a very cost-effective way of getting it done more quickly and efficiently. Can you tell me a little bit about what types of businesses or industries that typically benefit from these fractional services?
Well, we are industry agnostic, so we will work on any industry. We have consultants available that have expertise in various industries. It's impossible for one person to be an expert at everything. So, for instance, we've worked with nonprofits, manufacturing, healthcare, even cannabis, which I think a lot of companies won't touch. We've done cannabis accounting.
Hey, don't look at me.
It's
I didn't touch
legal. It's
I thought that was your
legal.
side
Right, it's
business.
legal, Christi.
It's
I mean,
legal.
I thought she gave me the Irish wink. She went,
Yeah. So I mean, there's not much that we haven't touched on within industries.
okay.
I will say the only clarifying thing I want to mention is that we aren't a CPA firm, so we can't do your taxes or audit for you. We can help with the preparation of those documents, but the only thing we don't really do for a company is sign off on an audit or their taxes for them.
Yeah, that's important, Rachel, for folks to know. Not a CPA firm. But let me ask you this. How do clients, banks, and CPA firms feel about working with our fractional resources rather than a full-time resource?
We work with them very closely. They usually love bringing us in for help on their clients. CPAs, they have independence laws, so if they're doing an audit for a company, they can't be the ones doing all of the prep work for them too. So they have to bring in resources if a company doesn't have a lot of internal bandwidth on their team. So they'll kind of pull us in. A lot of our consultants are past auditors as well, and they have their CPA, so they know what the CPA firms are going to be looking for on the financials, and they won't have to make a bunch of corrections or keep sending stuff back to the client for changes. And then on the banking side of things too, a lot of times bankers will have to deny a client or a prospective client a loan if they're looking for a line of credit, and it might be due to their financials. So they'll pull us in to kind of clean things up, make it look a little bit more pretty for them, and then they can not have to always turn away prospective clients in that area too. We help with compliance issues on their current lines of credits. So usually it's a really good working relationship with our clients' already existing partners.
That's great. My next question is a two-part question, so I hope you remember all the parts and see if I can pull it off.
I'm going to write it down.
Yeah, I'm having to stare at it right now a little bit because I like to know, for the audience's sake, what are the skills and experiences these fractional service providers bring to the table, but also what are some of the common tasks or projects that they're well suited for when they come to the table?
So when hiring consultants, it's a very particular skill set, right? I mean, typically accountants aren't known for being the most outgoing and personality driven and kind of heads down. You've never heard that before, right?
No.
But consultants, we have to be on the fractional side. We have to be very delicate with our clients and have to be able to read the room and understand what's happening. Sometimes we come in and people are not happy where the existing staff may feel uncomfortable or that they're being judged. And so we make sure to hire people that are not only very technically sound. We do a technical interview, ask them very specific technical questions. But on top of that, have a personality that our engagements, they're going to be happy to see us coming. They're not going to be saying, "Oh, Christy's coming again, and today's going to be a real drag."
Look, Christy, they couldn't be a drag.
Pushing, yeah. So, I mean, we are very selective with who is on our team, and they have to be both have a great personality to interact with clients. Where it's very much a role where you want to get the team's buy-in that you're there to help them. You're not there to come in and just kind of a bull in a china shop and rip everything up and restart. But we are there actually to help you move things along. And at the end of the day, your life is easier.
Not threatening their jobs, not threatening any of that stuff. Right. So it's making lives easier.
Yeah. And I think go ahead, Rachel.
I was just going to add on to that too. I mean, like Christy mentioned before, we're not being brought in when things are going perfectly smooth. There's usually some sort of project or a lot of lingering projects that are kind of left out that nobody has time for, or there's a mess, or there's a reason we're being brought in. So we're also looking for consultants who are very successful in those sort of fast-paced environments, and they're good at detangling the messes and sort of finding a way out and getting the team on board for that too. So they have to be pretty quick when they get in there in terms of what's the plan, where are we at now, where do we want to get to, how are we going to get there, and get the team's buy-in on that as well. And we want to be seen as an extension of their internal team, just not on their payroll, essentially.
That's great.
Yeah, and a lot of times we hear it's kind of companies are thinking, do we use fractional services or do we hire? And it's not necessarily an or decision, right? Like you can bring in the fractional services to help support the full-time.
Absolutely. And we have clients now that know they're going to hire, but they don't want to rush through that decision, right? Mm-hmm. When you're looking at, especially at these more senior levels, at controller or CFO, you don't want to pull the trigger because there's an empty seat and make a bad choice. We come in a lot after bad controllers or CFOs as well, where we're cleaning up the messes. So we give the clients that ability to take their time in that hiring decision and really make good choices. And we even offer, if clients would like, since we technically interview so well for our own team, we even offer, if you want us to technically vet whoever you're thinking about hiring. We work with a lot of CEOs, for instance, who are like, I don't know how to tell if they're good at accounting. I know they fit in with the
Right.
company and I think I'm going to like working with them, but I don't know. And you'd be surprised at how many people get to CFO level. We've interviewed some that, can't tell you what account to debit or credit in a certain transaction. So they may have gotten there through other means and don't really understand accounting technically very well. So we definitely encourage our clients, even if you're looking to hire internally, but you have that open spot, let us fill in so you're not so pressured to just take
Right.
whoever, comes
Yep.
in first.
Yeah, great point. So Rachel mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that you're starting to get busier this time of year all the way into spring. So what's going on with companies during the next 6 months that they would benefit from bringing in fractional services?
Yeah. So right now we're getting it's a lot of year-end prep. People are taking another look at their vendors that they're using. So right now, I know for you guys, we're getting pulled into typically some ERP conversions. People are usually starting that process right now if they want to go live January 1. We're doing a lot of cleanup for prepping for year end. So we're starting some audit preps currently, getting 1099s closed out, and then kind of starting the budget process for next year. I know we're doing it right now as a company, and just kind of getting ahead of that as well. So building out the budgets for 2025 for a lot of clients so that, next year they can start with a, cash flow forecast to kind of maintain the budget throughout the year and have good sights on that throughout the process next year. And then in the beginning of the year, we get brought in for a lot of year-end close work, a lot of audit prep, tax prep, that, like you mentioned before, the internal team at a company sometimes can't handle everything. So Jim, to your point, they already have their day-to-day job that they're going to be busy with. So
Right.
we can either help with the additional projects, or if they want to take on the additional projects, we can sort of backfill their day-to-day job. But it does get pretty busy around these times. Christi, is there anything else you wanted to add to that in terms of projects this time of year?
No, that was really good. But I heard something is trending on TikTok right now that's like the October phenomenon or something like that, and it's around that October is almost a new year of sorts for a lot of people. The weather's changing. You're only a couple months away from actual New Year's, and I think what we see quite a bit is people are realizing that project that they've had all year as a to-do
Right.
has not been touched or is not far enough along as to where it should be. And so this is when it picks up, because there's all those activities that were a goal for this year and they just haven't been able to happen because maybe the bandwidth wasn't there or the skill set. And so that's another area where we can really come in and supplement is let us help you get this knocked out. It was a goal this year. Don't push it to 2025. We can get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
they've
just wanna
already
add-
budgeted for it too, right? So that's like you don't want to lose that budget.
Absolutely.
I just want to add to that. There are a lot of young firms today, or even older firms who are smaller, who've never really done the budgeting exercise. And it is so crucial to understand, how you're performing against budget. And this is a great opportunity to both learn how to get a budget done, either implement or train folks internally, but being able to have a budget done by your fractional service, and then having the team be able to consistently measure against. I say that because I was in a business years ago that ran with no budget, and so it's like it's like shooting in the dark is what it is, right? So very important. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Sarah. You were having some other questions.
No, you didn't interrupt me at all.
She's so much nicer to me. I see her here.
When when it's recording.
I do want to stay with the budgets too. We have seen that with clients where they haven't done one, and you're right. How do you know if you're doing well or not? What were your goals for next year?
Right.
And the nice thing about having a fractional support on that too is you can get someone that's from that industry that can tell you, are your margins what they should be? What KPIs should you be thinking about? Help you think through like what should be some of your strategic planning for next year and how to budget for that. Or I had a client once call their budget kind of a decision engine, right? Can I hire someone? When can I hire them? At what point does it make sense? If you don't know that and you don't know how it's going to impact your bottom line or the business, it's really hard to make those decisions. So budgeting is huge, and we love to do them because it's that kind of visionary piece of the fractional.
Yeah, you get a sense of whether you're in the tank or not in the tank too, right? So
right.
Yeah. So speaking of that, when we work with clients, we have this whiteboarding exercise that you take them through. Can you talk a little bit about why we do that and what that is?
This is really good, by the way, audience. If you're listening, hopefully you're listening to this, please just pay special attention.
Dad, are you listening? No.
Yeah, so we that's sort of the first step in our process with a prospective client. And it's for both us and the client. Honestly, it helps us a lot in terms of getting familiar with the company and what the goals are, what the current challenges are. But so essentially we'll hop on and we kind of go in 4 sections. We'll get the background of the company, what got you guys to where you're at currently. What are some potential upcoming opportunities that you guys are focused on, either in the next couple weeks, next couple months, couple years? What can we help you guys prep for that's going to come up down the line? And then we'll go into challenges. What are the current challenges within the company? Obviously with a focus on accounting, but sometimes we get pulled into other areas of the business as well. That we can either help to connect them on, or we might have some best practices in. But what are you guys struggling with in terms of accounting and finance? What are you not getting, or what are you getting late? And we'll dive into a lot of those types of things. And then the last column that we have is based on solutions. So what can we provide to you guys to combat every single challenge that's on the board? We always try and have a solution, or at least one solution for every challenge that they're facing right now, and we typically do. I mean, we're pretty flexible to a lot of the clients, but I think visualizing it and them seeing it and having us up on the board writing things out for them, it really helps them see the significance of what they have going on, and how important it is to kind of tackle some of these items. Usually by the end of those meetings, we'll have like 8 to 10 things on the solutions list, and it does look a little bit daunting sometimes, but with our approach to it, and us being as flexible as we are, we can tackle it all at once if they want us to, and just throw all our resources at it, or we can kind of take it one step at a time. Let's start with the highest priority item. You can feel us out from there, and then sort of kind of move down the list as it makes sense for them. Depending on their budget or how much time they have for certain items. But it's a very effective process.
It really is. And I think, sometimes we're asking about things that they may not have thought of as well, that we've seen typically. And when we were talking about opportunities, that reminded me, I wanted to point out that a lot of times we're dealing with companies that are planning an exit at some point in the future. And that could be short term, or it could be 5 years down the road. But really, those are the things that we can also help with, because we have been through many. I have a client right now that is selling on the 1st of November. So we are very familiar with those types of transactions, but also what your books need to look like, and what makes you a more attractive company should you want to, if you're looking to sell. Those are things that you don't want to plan an exit, the moment you get the first random solicited offer, right? You should be thinking about that ahead of time. And that's the type of consulting service that we can also provide, having people with experience through those.
Right. Do you help the companies with EBITDA and add backs to get a sense of if they're dealing with multiple of EBITDA?
Yep, absolutely. We can also find out what we're hearing, around similar industries and what we're seeing as multiples. And a big thing that a lot of companies don't realize is you really want to get good SOPs in place when you're going to do an exit, because it makes you so much more attractive. Whoever purchases the business wants to know that it's a well-oiled machine and it's running smoothly, and that they're not just kind of flying by the seat of their pants month to month. operationally. And so those are things that we've helped with as well, as just helping to get some kind of standard operating procedures in place and written and documented for the accounting team.
Yeah, that's huge. Having repeatable process, standard operating procedures, that's what folks want to buy as a turnkey element of the business. That's awesome. Sarah, I didn't want to interrupt
Yeah,
you.
well, yeah. I have one more question, and then I'll give it back to you. So I'm in marketing, but anytime I have something that I want to try, or and really within any department, you always hear from, especially finance, well, what's the ROI on that? So how do you measure the success and the ROI of the fractional services that we're providing to clients?
You want to take that one, Rachel, or me?
You can take that one.
So we are big on deliverables to a client. Obviously, if they're getting a bill for fractional services, they don't want to have nothing in hand for that. So that solutions column that Rachel was talking about previously, those are the things that we are looking to deliver at the end of the engagement. And so all of those things are going to have ROI because they will either provide better insight into the business, which is very valuable, or quicker, get the information out quicker than it is being done now. We've worked with clients that are like 2 months behind on close or even further. So getting them caught up and current. And then also efficiencies. Where are there things that maybe take 10 hours that should take 2 hours? And how can we help implement a process to move those along faster? We get a lot of referrals from clients because they see the ROI that comes out of it, and they know another business that's struggling. And so, I mean, there is definitely I don't know if that we calculate in dollars at the end of an engagement necessarily, but we do kind of a wrap up additional whiteboard session to say, here's where you thought you were at prior. How do you feel where you're at now? And wrap it up and be able to discuss if there's maybe there's additional work that needs to be done. Maybe there's a new problem that came up that can be tackled, or maybe they get to walk away feeling like they're in a better situation than they were before we came in.
Yeah, great.
How much is that whiteboarding session?
It's free.
Mind blown.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the key aspects of this, and I asked it, of course, with knowing the answer. It is free, but it gives the folks a real understanding of what the benefit will be without having to make any investment. So we'll make sure you all have information on how to get that to the audience, and if any audience members are interested in going through this, which I think you should anyways, it's really helpful to have it and understand the benefits. You know, the other thing that we're doing too is we have a more formal blueprinting program that we offer in all parts of our software business. You know, people tend to buy software thinking it's a silver bullet, when in fact it becomes a shot through the foot oftentimes. So it's preparation first, people and process, and then we apply the technology in. So Christi and Rachel, Christi, I don't know why I said Christi, but it's a good name for Halloween, Christi. Christi and Rachel, you know, they would come in and be able to completely do a blueprint, understanding the full business, the digital transformation that you'll need to go through if you're considering a complete renewed ERP, e-com, whatever it might be, and getting the plan first, making sure it matches your ability or matches your processes and your people and take into consideration. That's part of the success factor with the software implementation. So that is a paid for effort. That's more of a far bigger consultative effort. The whiteboarding is no charge for you to gain the true understanding of the value. So I really want to thank you both. You're both a breath of fresh air, always lively and fun. Rachel and Christi, I'm going to say Christi Cereghino.
Thank you.
Did I do it with appropriate
Excellent.
Italian
You did
accent?
it excellent.
Prosciutto, mozzarella, and Rachel Durkot. So sorry, I went right into the Rachel Durkot with no accent.
I don't even know what accent you would pull out for that.
I don't know
so.
either. I was thinking Irish, but I don't know.
Maybe.
Which I could do, but I'm not going to do it here today. Any final thoughts on your side? Some of the summaries that we went through, some of the benefits you just want to pop out there?
I think, like you said, it's worth a whiteboard session, and at the very end, you walk away. We'll give you a copy of that whiteboard. You can hold it to think about for future plans, but you don't know what you don't know, right? And so
Right.
sometimes just having that strategy session of how could we be better and improved upon, and if it's no cost to you, I would say go for it.
Right. Well, we're so happy to have you as a part of our team. Folks, for that whiteboarding or any other interest in our fractional services, you can send an email to growth@brainsell.com, growth@brainsell.com. BrainSell is spelled with an S, not a C, BRAINSELL.com. Or you can DM me, you can go to LinkedIn, you can find me out there, or Sarah or Brian, and certainly Rachel, Christi. So we look forward to engaging with you. And again, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Christi. Thank you, Brian. Thank you to all those who are listening. You can find our podcast wherever podcasts are found, and they're found in a lot of places. I don't know where they're found, but they're found.
Spotify, Apple, wherever you like to listen, whatever app you like to use to listen to your podcasts,
right.
we're on it.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you again. And this is Jim Ward. I'm CEO of BrainSell, and this is the Growth Enablement Madness podcast, where we're mad about your growth and scale. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Growth Enablement Madness podcast. I also want to thank Divinio Podcast for this episode's production and distribution. Finally, thank you to Sam Ward for our musical introduction and outro. Be sure to check out all of our episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. New episodes are available monthly and cover all important topics for growing and scaling your business. Until next time, this is Jim Ward signing off. Let's grow.